If you're the go-to guy when someone gets in trouble, you need to watch this video. Because I'm going to talk about the different types of DUI cops that you're going to encounter in the greater Orlando area. Now, I'm positive that not all jurisdictions have the same DUI dynamic that Orange County does, but that doesn't mean the information won't help you out wherever you live. I'm going to talk about 6 different types of DUI cops that you're going to encounter when you live here or get stopped here in Orlando. You need to understand each of them just in case you get that frantic phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning and your friend tells you that he might be being arrested for DUI and then hands the phone off to the officer. In my years as a cop, I've been handed the phone hundreds of times in that situation. If you want a shot at preventing your friend from being arrested in the first place, you'll need to quickly identify what type of cop you're dealing with. We're going to start with the absolute nots. These are the types of cops that are not going to arrest someone for DUI unless their job depends on it. They'll make you park your car and walk, call for a ride. In fact, they may just totally ignore the fact that you're DUI in the first place. But if they're cornered, they're going to call for another cop to come make the arrest, or they'll simply arrest you on a simpler traffic offense. If you find yourself talking to an absolute knot, that's great news. You have a decent chance of preventing your friend from being arrested. Next, the if I have tos. Their position seems to be, I'll arrest him if he's falling down drunk, but I'm certainly not going out of my way to look for a DUI. This is a mixed bunch of cops, from road deputies, patrol officers, to detectives and SROs, supervisors. In fact, this is probably your largest group of officers out there that we're going to discuss. If they pull you over and you're clearly DUI, they will call for a DUI cop to come make the arrest. This is the guy you might be able to talk into an alternative resolution. It's going to have to be a good resolution that makes the officer feel comfortable because he's not going to want anyone to let anyone go if he thinks it might come back and bite him in the butt later. Here's the deal. DUI drivers get let go all the time. But if you knowingly let a DUI go and something happens that's bad, it's a huge risk for the cop. Their actions are going to be called into question by the media, the police department, internal affairs, you name it. So your suggested resolution needs to take that into account. The resolution needs to put the officer at ease that letting your friend go isn't going to come back and bite him in the ass at a later date. It also adds a layer of difficulty if that officer has already called for the DUI cop to come take the case. If the DUI officer has already been notified and is on his way, your chances of getting your friend out of trouble decrease dramatically. Next up, let's talk about the well-rounded officers. These guys are just good at being cops no matter what situation you put them in. They're in for whatever the night brings to them. But if they start getting 2 or 3 DUI arrests in a short time span, their behavior towards DUI arrests may temporarily shift towards the if I have to cops. You've got a decent chance of getting your buddy off with a well-rounded cop, but they need a reason why this guy isn't the best use of their time. Tread lightly with this conversation. If you downplay the seriousness of DUI, or if the cop believes that no lesson was learned by your buddy, you're probably going to encourage him or push him into making the arrest. The next category, DUI cops in the making. They're going to arrest your friend unless they have doubt as to whether the person's breath alcohol level is over 0.08. I was this cop. It took me about 30 or 40 DUI arrests and the completion of some training before I was actually confident in my DUI arrest. During this phase, I went to court a lot. It's actually where I honed my DUI craft. I made a lot of critical mistakes and I lost a fair number of cases because of those mistakes, but I learned, and I learned quickly. Your best chance of getting to this cop to let your friend go depends on convincing him that your guy's below the legal limit. Keep in mind though, that's tough. It's the borderline cases that turn DUI cops in the making into full-fledged DUI cops. You don't want it to be confrontational and challenge the officer to prove that your buddy is impaired because he'll simply do that with an arrest and the breath test. As the go-to friend, you're not going to have much say here. You're going to be severely limited by the circumstances of which your friend finds himself. Ask if the cop will allow your boy to speak with a lawyer. If so, ask the cop not to turn his phone off so the lawyer can call in. If you get a chance to speak with your friend, tell him to politely refuse to do everything and keep his mouth shut. Now, one of the last categories is DUI cop. These guys are going to arrest your friend. They're proactively looking for DUIs. Their performance evaluations can literally depend on the number of DUI arrests they make. These cops have attended advanced level training, they know their trade, and they generally do everything they're supposed to. You're in for an uphill battle if your friend was pulled over by a DUI cop when they're drunk. These cops know how to ask the right questions to paint people into the worst possible light while still appearing as though they're giving you the benefit of the doubt. There's probably only about 50 or so of these cops in Central Florida, well actually in Orange County, Florida. How do I know? Because I spent years as this cop. Be careful if you're dealing with this cop and you get the call at 2 o'clock in the morning and you drive to the scene to help. The DUI cop is going to suspect you of DUI too. You wouldn't be the first person to be arrested for DUI while trying to help your friend who's facing their own DUI problem. The final category is rookie cops, and they're a breed of their own. I love training new cops because they're literally in the first few weeks of living a dream they've had since they were a kid. There's something really cool about that. Keep in mind, some of these really are still kids, not even old enough to buy the bullets for the guns of which they're authorized to carry. Something just doesn't sit right with that, but it is what it is. My first traffic stop that I conducted back in 2004 was embarrassing. Actually, that's a little off topic. If you guys are interested, let me know. I'll create another video on new cops, and I'll share that story about my first traffic stop experience. So, there you have it. You are now a better go-to guy for your friends. But just like any other complex problem, it's impossible for me to cover all the variables in a YouTube video. On my other videos, I've had you guys leave some really good comments and ideas. I'm not suggesting that my way is the only way, or even the best way, but I've got 13 years of this experience up in this head, and I want to provide some insight that draws on that experience. Thank you for watching. If you found this video valuable, share it and subscribe to my channel. God bless.